What's up, guys? My name is Pi, and welcome to SLR Lounge Critique. Now, this is where we verbally bash your photograph. No, this is where we critique the community based on a certain set of criteria, and this week's episode is all about lighting. So we have 10 images submitted by premium members. We're gonna jump right in. I want this to be a no-nonsense series where we're diving in, helping those that submitted, but also just those of you that are watching. This is one of the best ways to improve your photography skill set, is to see what other people are doing. So let's go ahead, we're gonna dive in. I'm inside of Lightroom and I have the first image pulled up. This is from Wes Jordan of Wesley Leon Studios. Wes has been a member for a long time and appreciate you submitting this image, Wes. So first off, let's go ahead and I'm in the develop module so I can use my little red pen just to mark up the image as needed. I'm also gonna flip the lights out so we can just focus on the image. Now, first off, I think it's a cool concept and a cool idea, Wes. My only issue here is that I can probably guarantee that this photograph isn't gonna look like any of the other shots that you took that day or that evening. Primarily because you're using a red gel. Now, I'm all for gels. I love gels. But let's talk about this for 1 second, including, let's talk about how you're lighting. So I'm gonna guess, based on the shadows and everything that's going on right now, is that you've got the light directly behind them and it looks like it's bouncing. It looks like it's directly behind her shoulders. And the reason why is because we can see the shadow coming off the left and coming off to the right, and it looks like she's the center point of that shadow. Okay, we can also see that it's hitting her red dress most likely, and it's bouncing back into the door itself, and that's what creates the red highlight on the door. Now, this looks really cool, and don't get me wrong about that. It's an interesting shot, and I like the creative use of flash. What I want to say is that a red gel is a very strong look. I don't know that it fits the look of the wedding itself, and I wouldn't go for a red gel. That's why we stick to, usually for weddings, we're going for more like the yellow gels, even something more maybe blue on the orange side, like those kind of ranges versus like this straight red. That said, let's talk about the technique itself. I do want you to take this into post when you guys are editing stuff like this. Anytime light shines directly onto a door, there's gonna be specular objects that are gonna draw a lot of attention because they're gonna go pure white. So these are things that I would nix in Photoshop. In addition, I want you to push the couple over. If you're going for a symmetrical composition, make it symmetrical, and they're not quite there yet. Last thing is they have the magic crotch going on. I call the magic crotch this little thing right here. When their hips aren't closed and they're not quite open, just enough light spills through this crack to basically create magic crotch. And it doesn't necessarily look good because it draws your eyes right there to that space. So either we want to pull them apart and create silhouette figures, or we want to bring them together and close them up, but we don't want that gap in the crotch area. That's a good general rule, right, Carlo? Avoid the crotchal region gap. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's check a look at who shot this. This is from Steve Irwin of SR Irwin Weddings. Steve, it's been a long time, brother. Steve was one of my F-Stopper Bahamas students, actually, Carlo. Way, way back. So let's take a look. Steve, this is awesome. Like, both you and Wes, you guys have come such a long way, and it's wonderful to see the work that you guys are creating now. I'm gonna turn the lights out. We're gonna get into this. So from a lighting and composition, they kind of go hand in hand, right? So one thing I would do is I wouldn't make them compete against this tree right behind them. Steve, it would be a really easy adjustment when posing the couple to just shift them to this open space right here. And what happens is you end up having the leaves and trees on each side to frame our happy couple. See, do you see this right now, Carlo? Do you see my drawing skills? This is the couple right there. Anyway, okay. So I'm gonna undo all that. So as far as the lighting goes, I'm gonna say that this is a really nice lighting job. The only thing is that it's a tiny bit flat. Like, we don't see a whole heck of a lot of shadow in the shot, but there's very good balance to what you're creating in the image. The couple is just the right brightness based on the background. There's just one small issue that I would bring up. Now, if you're shooting the shot and you're getting stars, likely this is a composite, right? This is a tripoded shot. I would do one thing, and that is burn down this tree over here, because this tree is actually brighter than your couple. So For the viewer, the first thing that I do is I look at the couple, and then my eye goes straight to the tree where it's super bright. There's also a well-lit chair right here, and I'm like, man, that's a well-lit chair. Somebody should be sitting in it. So when it comes to that lighting, if you can't control these lights, then I would at least take a darker exposure and blend them and burn the tree down. That might involve a little bit of masking, but it's going to be worth it for a shot like this. This is a great shot. All right, let's move on. Here we have Brandon Toma. Now, have I edited this? Let me just make sure. Okay, so this looks good. Brandon of Brandon Toma Photography. I'm sorry, I gotta make sure I say credit everybody. Thank you for submitting this image, and thanks for making it about a car. I love cars, and I love Porsches. So this specific shot, when it comes to lighting, well, I love the way they look. I mean, it has a very soft, beautiful, flattering light on the couple. And it looks like just natural light, basically. You have them kind of standing and opened up to the sky, which is lighting into their faces. So it has this very nice look. The only issue to me from a lighting standpoint is these yellows and the blues in the shot. They're almost like overpowering. So my thought here is that if you're not going to actually shoot a dramatic shot, and that's fine. You don't always have to shoot dramatic shots. That's a whole nother story altogether. If you're going for something natural, great. But what you have are competing color tones at a brightness that's overriding your couple. And you've already done a good job balancing and brightening the couple and everything, but the backgrounds are still too much. So there's actually a pretty simple fix for this, and it's one that I teach our people in the studio all the time. I'm going to go into the develop module, and let me just turn the lights on because you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing if you can't see with the lights on. So all we're going to do is jump into the HSL. I want you to jump down into saturation, and these greens and yellows are basically at the point of clipping. So I want you to not only tweak the saturation of them, I also want you to tweak the luminance of them. So we're going to drop the that little dropper right on this and just pull it down a bit. And once we do, we can still get a green tone like right here, but it's not going to be overpowering. And you'll notice that it's tweaking the greens and the yellows, and it's really more the yellows that are blown in this shot. So I'm going to bring the greens down just a little bit more. The other thing I'm going to do is actually pull a little bit of the blues. Now, I still want to see the blues. I just don't want to see them like kind of overpowering everything else. I'm going to bring it to about right there. If we want, we can play with the luminance, but honestly, this looks pretty good. And you can also just bring the greens and the yellows down a titch. I want to make sure I don't go too much, because if you go too much, you're going to get something that doesn't look good like this. Like this is not finished. You know what I mean? Like this is not, do you see this, Carla? That's not good. So I want you to bring it down just a little bit to like maybe right here. Now, the final trick to this is warming up the actual shot. So you're going to go back up to temperature and warm it up by 1 or 2 notches. What this does is it blends all the tones together. Our greens are still green, our yellows are still yellow. But by diminishing those tones and then warming everything up, we essentially create a shot that's much better put together. And look at this. If I press backslash and you look at these 2 shots, you'll see that we really didn't do anything different from a lighting standpoint, but it looks almost like we did. It looks like we actually put some sort of fill light on them so that the background lights kind of dim down. So that's a little trick in post when you're shooting a shot like this and it's natural and you want to keep it natural. Take that, stick it in your pocket, roll with it. You know what I mean? My dad used to say that. Put that in your pocket. No, he'd say put that in your pipe and smoke it. My dad didn't smoke. It makes no sense. Kind of like his comment about Netflix and you. If you're missing that, just go follow me on Facebook. You'll see. All right, so Andy Rodriguez. What's up, Andy? Of Andy Rodriguez Photography. Andy, if it's the Andy that I'm thinking about, thank you for participating. Thank you for being a member. So check this out, guys. First of all, Andy, this is a freaking gorgeous shot. Gorgeous? Gorgeous. The only thing here is I from a post standpoint, I do notice some of the, like there's clearly like a graduated filter that's kind of shifting everything blue. But I like what you have. Now, we're focusing on lighting, right? So my main thing here is if I zoom in, I can't really zoom in too much. Let's see if we can go in a little bit closer. Let me get 3 to 1. Okay, so if I zoom in a little bit, and I asked them for low resolution, like 2K images, so if they look pixelated, that's why. It's not the photographer, they're sharp, don't worry, internets, calm yourself, relax. All right. So my main thing here is the shadows that he's creating, and on top of that, the fact that he's blocking her dress. I mean, look, you've done a great job in setting up that light, right? This light, if I zoom back out, I can guess that this, man, you see this spazzing out? I'm spazzing out over here. This light is probably coming either directly from behind or you're compositing it, right? And it's going right into her face in a really nice way, which is creating that nice shadow. So you've done a beautiful job in placing the light based on where her face direction is and everything like that. That's fantastic. Then you went and covered her up with him. That's the no-no there. Not only do we get a nasty shadow across his arm on his back, but we also don't see the texture that you're creating in the dress by lighting it that way. We lose it all. So instead, put him into a different pose. You can put him behind her. You can put him next to her. You can put him off to the side of her. There's so many things that could be done that are going to allow her dress and her look to really pop in this shot. That said, this is a freaking epic image. My only thing here is in post, I would do a little bit better job of editing this. If you're going to drop in that graduated filter, make sure it kind of comes in and is more gradual. It kind of drops all the way down and into the photograph, and you're not covering the mountains over here, okay? That's how it looks kind of faked. So I'd probably cool the main area down and probably exaggerate the blue effect a little bit, but make sure it's just kind of over the clouds. And you can use the auto mask. It'll actually do a really good job of that. All right, moving on. Thank you, Andy. This is from Rose Green, Rags Photography. Rose, I met Rose, I think at Kaiser Permanente. Yeah, and I think she became a premium member. That's awesome. Rose, thank you for submitting this. So Rose of Rags Photography. So we have a really nice sunset shot right here. And let's talk about, everybody's going to be at different places in their photographic career. So Carlo, I'm going to, take it a little bit harder on some people and a little bit easier on other people. Actually, no, let's just verbally bash everybody. I'm just kidding. Rose, this is a great shot. I would first just shrink your logo down a little bit. But the balancing in this shot between exposure here and background is fantastic, okay? Meaning their brightness is just slightly brighter than the background, and that makes them pop. The problem here is that you use direct flash, and what that does is it basically creates these highlights on anything that's closest to the camera and shadows on the sides. In other words, we really don't have a lot of shadows. It kind of flattens everything out, and it looks like on-camera flash, and that's a big issue. So what I'm going to do is encourage you to get that camera and flash separated. Lighting 201 is all about this, getting it off camera. The next thing I would say is from the pose standpoint is this pose is a little bit over the top. They're kissing they're locked in. I mean, these guys are dialed in. They don't know what's going on around them. Yep. There could be a plane flying overhead. They're not going to hear it. Not like in this place where we hear every GD plane that flies over our heads. Anyway, from that side, I would probably open them up a little bit. If they're going to kiss, I would make it so that we can see both their faces where their noses don't go over each other. So you kind of have them kiss softly, directly, straight on, basically. And then you need to open them up, have them stand up tall, and light from his side going into her face so that the shadow is on his side, basically, and not on hers. So that's going to be my critique there, is I want you to start practicing with off-camera flash. All right. This is from Bobby Brown of Bobby Brown Photography. We have a portrait shot, which I love. So, Bobby, this is a cool shot. There's a lot of things going right for this image. There's some things going wrong, too. Number one, this guy looks pissed. I don't know what's going on with this guy, but he doesn't look happy. Now, it's cool if you're going for a more serious look, but I would pull in the Peter Hurley squinch where they're kind of going eyes closed with a soft smile a little bit. Something that gives it a little more interesting of a pose. But that's really more the pose and not the lighting. So from a lighting standpoint, what I'm going to say is for a portrait shot, it's nice. You have good wrapping light and good shadow dimension. And what's going right is that the highlights compared to the shadows, it looks like I'm pointing out the fact that he's bald. And that's not what I'm doing right here. What I'm trying to say is that the highlights on one side and the shadows on the other side are very well balanced, okay? So the shadows aren't too deep, the highlights aren't too bright, and on that you've done a great job. But look at this. You've got a catch light in his eye, and you missed the catch light in the other one. This has an effect of making it look like he has a lazy eye, but in reality it's not. It's that the light is too high. So if we have our, you know what, I had a flash here a second ago. Did you just feel like you had to move my flash somewhere else? Okay, you know what, it's fine. I'll use my pen. This is the flash, right? This is the tip of the head. All you need to do is bring the angle down a little bit because the light is placed a little bit too high, and so it's catching his eyelid instead of going into his eye. That's number one. Number two, the light needs to come back to the camera a little bit because you're going for Rembrandt, but the triangle under the right side is not quite defined enough. We're not getting enough of that highlight, so just pull it back a little bit. You make those two adjustments, and then the last thing I'm gonna do, the other thing you can do, by the way, other than bring the light back, is just pushing his chin. So his chin just needs to go over this way. Again, I'm not like drawing a goatee. So what I'm trying to say is push his chin a little bit into the light, so that way it gets a stronger highlight on that side. Bring the light a little bit down, give him a little more interesting pose, have him sit up tall, and you're golden. It's a beautiful shot. Let's take all my markings off, shall we? Let's jump back here. Let's see what we got next. This is from Jared M. Gant from Jared M. Gant Photography. Jared's a good friend of ours, actually, and he is now one of our very first SLR Lounge ambassadors. Did you know that? He's legit. So I think it's really cool that he's submitting his image to be critiqued because he knows I'm going to slap him hard. You can't put that word in there. You have to bleep that. Sorry. He knows I'm going to slap him hard. Jared, I'm going to slap you hard. We have a nice shot. Let me go ahead and jump into the develop module so I can get my pen tool. We're going to go lights out. So our sunlight's coming directly down from this side. He has a single flash, it looks like, over here to camera left and lighting in to her side. Now, it looks like from the light pattern itself that we're probably using a mag box. Jared, you can confirm if it is a mag box, but it looks like that type of light, especially because it looks like it has the diffusion fabric on it, which is a focus diffuser, or at least as they call it. So it has an effect of like kind of creating a soft light, but it's also gridded, and that's why we see this fall off. So you can see this fall off as we kind of carry down that the legs are getting darker, and it creates a really nice spotlight effect, but with a soft light. It looks really cool. But my issue here is mainly in the light angle to the pose. So basically that light comes up and over, and it creates the shadow that we see right here on her chest. And it's a distraction, especially because that shadow, look at it, it carries down all the way to the arm. So the way that we do that is if you were to look, and Jared, I'm gonna destroy your photograph by drawing on it. So I'm gonna draw this couple top down, right? So currently, that's their head, and this is their shoulder, and he's facing her, and this is her head, and this is her shoulder, and she's facing him, right? So all we need to do is push him back just a little bit and open the angle of his shoulder, okay? And then she's gonna be right here. This is getting nasty. But just have him open angled. It'll still be the exact same pose, but that openness with the shoulder rolled out a little bit will allow the light to kind of enter in without being blocked by his shoulder. So that's a simple trick right there. The other thing I would do is just small things on the pose. You're doing such a beautiful job of lighting this image, and the balance is so freaking flawless. It's ridiculous. You've got that beautiful rim, you've got everything going for you. But the pose that she's in right now eliminates a lot of her curve. So I would have her roll this shoulder out just a little bit to this side, get the hip back in the shot so that that sunlight can come and just give this beautiful edge lighting all the way down the body, and then have her chin going a little bit into the light so that way we have shape to the jawline. That's it. That's it. That wasn't so bad, was it? Thank you, Jared, for submitting this image. Thank you for being humble. He's a legit photographer. You know Jared, right? I mean, like he's an ambassador. He's legit. All right. Samuel Quinn of Picturesque by Samuel Quinn. I love it. Love, love, love it. Dude, put a dog in any photograph, and it's amazing. Put a cute kid next to that dog, and like you're talking like Carlo's doing this right now. He's doing the what is that, money? Like
Points, adding points.
why you do it 2 fingers or 1 finger? Why are you licking? What do you lick? That's to separate dollar bills, isn't it? Okay. Let's just go back to what we're doing. So from a lighting standpoint, let's talk about this. Honestly, like, there's not a whole lot to critique about this light. It's freaking gorgeous. You chose the right light modifier. You chose the right exposure. We have great balance between the skin tones here and this background here that's a little bit darker. No, the background is not just a small circle, Carlo. It's the whole thing, but I'm just kind of implying. Everything is flawless. My only critique here is going to be that if you just push that light off to the left side a little bit more, I'm not talking about a lot. I don't want something dramatic because this is a children's portrait. We don't want dramatic, right? I just want a little bit of lighting angle. So right now, if we were again looking, why can't I draw a circle, dude? I have a hard time with circles. Okay, this is our child. Should I draw the dog? This is the dog. It's just a ball of fur. Cool. So right now it looks like the camera is here, okay, and your light is basically like right here. Now I'm not saying to go all the way over here because that's going to be too dramatic. I'm just saying go a little bit more to the side to create a little bit more shadow and just a little more depth in the photograph. Everything else, awesome. I love this shot. This is fantastic. All right. Saad Khan. That sounds like a name that belongs in Star Trek. The next Star Trek? Saad, if wedding photography doesn't work out for you, which it probably will because you're good, clearly. But if it doesn't, Star Trek actor? Okay, cool. Lumiere Photography, and let's take a look at this. I love Star Trek, by the way. Like, more so than Star Wars. I know people are going to like, look, comment below if you're Star Trek or Star Wars. And I have a whole kind of database of reasons as to why I like both. I love both. But I love one more, and it's Star Trek. Let's keep going, yeah? So, Saad, my issue here is it's really a matter of brightness, right? So the light on them and the light quality and everything like that is good, and it's a beautiful shot. I again would say the same thing that I did to Wesley, which is if you're going to go for something symmetrical, just make sure it's symmetrical. You got to push them over a little bit to actually center them up. We want to look at the space from here to here and from here to here and make sure it's even, and right now it's not. Now, second, when it comes to light, that's what we're here for, right? So the exposure on the background looks fantastic. They look about a stop dark, okay? So they're one stop dark, and that means that they fall into the background. So they get lost in this background because everything's kind of the same brightness, and because of that, our eyes go to the highlight points, which are the chandeliers and the white flowers up here instead of the couple. So that's my main thing, is getting that light a little bit brighter. Other than that, it looks nice. It's a shot that doesn't have a ton of shadow, but again, that's okay. It's okay to not have a lot of shadow in the shot and to not have, like, if that's what you're going for, something a little more flat. I do like a little bit more dimension, and so I would have done the same thing that I did with Jared's, pull his shoulder back a little bit, bring a little bit of lighting angle, and bring them off to the left, and then light them, pin lighting only them so that they're kind of highlighted inside of this. That's my main thing here. It looks like I drew a strategy for scoring a goal. Does it look like football or soccer? Football? Really? Okay. This is from Greg Hitchcock of Gregory Hitchcock Photography. Greg, thank you for submitting. Boy, there's a lot that I really enjoy about this photograph. I like the composition that you took and this line that kind of, oh, that's not my pen. So this line that you took that goes across is great. I'm not a huge fan of like this open bright area over here. I kind of feel like that could have been, like, the entire image basically could have been cropped. So if you took this down to like right somewhere about here, I think you have something a lot more compelling with that shot, right? So a simple crop can do a lot for you. Now, again, we're here to talk about lighting. I just like to throw, I like to throw a few other things in. Everyone else that's here right now, let's throw some stuff in. Dappled light is an interesting effect, but not when it's used in this way. Right now, it's used almost without intention. So you have these highlight points that are on her skin in very awkward and weird ways. So when you have dappled light like this, and it does look like you're flashing into it, it looks like you're adding light to them. And I would say kudos for that. Your adding light is great. The only problem is it's not enough to overpower the dappled light, and even if it were, you'd still have brighter spots in their skin. So the key here is taking an angle where they're not going to have light directly on their skin, or if that's not possible, to take a different angle because it just doesn't look good from the other angle, then keep adjusting their position to get that light off of them. The last thing that you could potentially do is, if you had the time, you could put the camera up on a tripod. You could actually scrim. You could hold the scrim right here, flash them, and get a shot of them with clean lighting and the flash. Then take another shot, because the camera's up on the tripod, with the scrim and everything taken out. That gives you a very easy composite that you can put into Photoshop. You can layer it, and you have perfect lighting, and you'd have the exact composition that you'd actually want without the dappled light. My last thing is the same thing that I mentioned before. I don't like it when they kiss in ways that we can't see both their faces. We see a whole lot of him and nothing of her. And everybody knows, I'm not even going to say it. No. It's important to see both of them. That's it for this episode of Critique. If you guys enjoyed, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave us a comment below. Help us out. If you're a premium member and you'd like to submit your images for critique, make sure you're in the premium members Facebook group. Also, join us in the SR Lounge Photography Education Facebook group, and you can follow me at PieGersa on Instagram or Facebook. And that's it. That's it, Carlo. Let's be done. My name is Pie, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.